Ever wonder whether you're just winging the Facebook ad strategy for your course or program? A lot of people throw around the word strategy, but they never really define it. It's kind of just made up. And this makes running the ads 10 times harder because you might not know whether you're missing some of the key persons to make your strategy actually work. I focus on full-time lead gen with Facebook ads, so I spend all day finding and fixing these specific strategy gaps for my clients. Today, I'm going to show you the 7-step framework that I use so you can build your own solid Facebook ad strategy, particularly if you're running a training academy or a course or program, something like this. The first thing you really want to work out is who is the target. So for most programs, you can break it down into multiple different groups of people, and you probably have the experience internally, if you've done this before, to know that each different group of person responds differently and has different levels of interest in your program. So for example, if we take a gym as an example, they could help all kinds of people. They could help women, they could help men, they could help people who are older, they could help people who are younger, more athletic, and so on. But the question you should have in mind is, what is the value, competition, and alignment of each of these groups? So for example, you may find that one group is far more valuable than another, but people don't get as much out of the course or program as other groups. Likewise, you might find another group is very expensive to target, but they get a lot out of your program. So you really need to make a decision here about who you're going to target. I would suggest that you pick the target, at least to begin to test, that has a good mix of being valuable to your organization, meaning they can actually pay the price and they get a lot out of your program, because it will be way easier to close these people. Something you need to keep in mind as an X factor is the level of competition. So I would balance the value versus alignment against how much competition there is for that segment. So for example here, for using this image, you can see that the competition for more fit men for the gym space is going to be quite high, but you'll probably find that they're pretty interested in what you offer. But on the other hand, you might find people who may be in older demographics actually have a lot of cash compared to these young men, as an example. But the competition is very low because a lot of people are not talking to them in their advertising. So that's the decision you need to make. Who do you target? And you make the decision based on how valuable they are, how much competition is, and how aligned they are with your product or service offering. So the next thing is your offer, which is not necessarily exactly the thing you do. It's the thing that you use to entice people to engage with you. So offers can take multiple different formats. So if we look at this is General Assembly on the left here. What they're doing is basically telling you to request information, probably book a call directly with them. On the other hand, if you see on the right-hand side towards the top, you can see a flight school in Sydney is promoting a trial flight. So it's not just an inquiry in their main program. They're using the trial flight as a way to entice people to engage with them so they can convert a percentage of people who take these trial flights. But even more, they're actually promoting that it's a very affordable trial flight in comparison. Then you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a K-pop school, and you can see it's promoting a video which is training people about the understanding of the industry and how it works in order to get more interested people into the funnel so they can convert those people to our program. So for trade schools, academies, that type of thing, you're probably going to find most offers come down to in-person tours, admission calls directly, video/webinar trainings. They can be direct or indirect, meaning their webinar about your program or their webinar about a topic related to your program. So for example, the K-pop ad here is about a training related to K-pop training in general, not their specific program. You can also do general content offers like downloadable resume templates, cheat sheets, that type of thing, and quizzes and surveys. So what I do here is I start by choosing the most common one I see out in the market for the baseline, and then I use the combined judgment of my clients, obviously, and myself to test, if necessary, another offer. So we're not accidentally missing a trick here by testing an offer that is actually way more competitive in the market because other people aren't promoting it, but can actually get good quality leads in. Next up, we have positioning, which is how you present that offer. So for example, Mark Ritson says there are 2 ways to position yourself: about something or against something. So an example might be, if your competitors are very expensive, you position yourself against the competitor by saying that you're cheaper. Or you may find that your clients are more interested in the community of your program or the hiring rate of your program, so you're positioning it very closely with that particular aspect of your service or your product. So for example, you might say, we have the best hiring rate, or we have the best community for X, Y, and Z reasons. You're choosing a positioning on your offer. So for example, if we look back at the flight school, they're positioning that they have an affordable service, at least for the trial flight. The way that you work this out is I start with research on what the target market wants and doesn't want. So you can get this by obviously mining reviews. So looking at Google Maps as an example, you can see here this is a vocal studio in Dubai, and you can see that somebody has pointed out that they felt like this particular studio was a great place for their young children to develop a love in music and develop their talent. So it might be that their studio is better than other studios, or that's how they want to position themselves at working with children, as an example. Or they may want to dig into the love of music aspect of the messaging compared to their competitors. So that's positioning about, and it can also be positioning against your competitors if they say they're more towards adults, as an example. The other way you can do this is by looking at comments on videos and social media, like YouTube videos, that kind of thing. And obviously you need to mine the deep knowledge of the sales team. So people who talk with prospective students or customers on the front line to really dig into what are the common phrases that people say when they talk to your organization. They might say something like, oh, I was looking for X, Y, and Z, and I just hate the idea of doing A, B, and C. That's a really good idea for positioning. And what typical problems they have and what typical feelings they have, because these can all be good vectors or lines that you can use to run your positioning of that offer. So in practice, what I do is I pick 2 to 3 messaging angles for testing. It's very surprising how you might have a hunch that positioning A is going to be really effective, but it's always good to test at least A and B and then have C lined up, because more often than not, I found that the positioning I thought was going to be really effective turned out to be the loser when compared to B or C positioning ideas that I had as well. So you just want to make sure that your bases are covered, and you must A/B test this. Otherwise, you may be misled in thinking, ads don't work because no one responded to the ad at a profitable rate, when it was actually the positioning that they didn't respond to. Also, while we're here, FYI, if you'd like some help putting together your Facebook ad strategy, I'm offering a free 25-minute strategy workshop here, limited for a month. So click the link on this document. There's a link to it below, or just find the link in the caption. So you have your target market, you have your offer, you have your positioning. Now we can get into the creative work. So creatives have lots of different formats. So it's not just an ad, it's a before and after ad, or it's a listicle ad, or it's a item with call outs around the ad. So, has lines explaining different features of the product or service or the program in this case. There are lots of different types. Another example, memes are really common formats I think everybody's seen. They all perform differently. So you're going to need to choose a selection. You can choose them based on benchmarking what your competitors are doing, but obviously also use your own judgment to go, well, I know what tends to work in the past. I'm going to use some more of this, and also other formats you want to experiment with. So you're not just running the same thing as everybody else. Because what you'll find is certain formats tend to perform better than others, and that might be a mixture of competition, novelty, and clarity, as an example. Likewise, for your video ads, you're going to have a look at different scripts or outlines of scripts. So very common one that you see in the e-commerce space is problem solution. But you can also use pain, agitate, solution, testimonials, etc. There are 1,000,001 frameworks out there. You're obviously going to have to choose the ones that you prefer yourself. Looking at your competitors can give you an idea of what the baseline might be, and then using your own judgment and intuition about how people feel, what they're looking for, can help guide you on the frameworks for your videos that you want to choose beyond that baseline. So to put this into practice, I use about 5 to 10 at a time. So I would put a minimum of 3 different formats that can be 3 different script types or 3 different static image types in one ad set at a bare minimum. But if you want to expand that more, I would expand it out to 5 at a time, and then I would A/B test them. So if you're seeing there are 2 different messaging angles or 2 different segments at target markets you want to test, at least run an A/B test to go, I'm testing messaging angle 1 and messaging angle number 2, or 2 different personas, 2 different target markets, and I'm running at least 3 or 5 ads on each of these at the same time to compare which one resonates more, because again, you can be often surprised to see which segment of the market responds better and which formats get the best attraction in them. So definitely A/B test those. Next up, we have copy. So like creative formats, copy tends to use different frameworks and structures too. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. This is the way I do it. But formats are things like pain, agitate, solution. Everybody's heard of AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action, the before, after bridge, that kind of stuff. These are the frameworks that you can use to experiment with different copy formats, because you may find that one copy format performs way better than another. Likewise, you also have hooks. So that's the first line of your ad copy before someone has to click see more in order to read the rest of your ad. Or it's the headline that goes on your ad itself if your ad has a headline on it. So they tend to have different categories. The ones I like to use that was taught by Liam Casey is basically curiosity and transformation hooks. That helps me narrow it down to 2 different categories to test at a time. So what I would do again is pick 5 to 10 to run at a time so that I can A/B test a lot of these at the same time. Now we're almost there. We're on to funnel. This is probably the one that most people are familiar with when it comes to thinking about a Facebook ad strategy, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. It's the second last piece of the puzzle in this case. The funnel is the mechanism of how you capture the leads. So it doesn't always have to be a landing page. It can be the Meta Instant Forms themselves. It can be Messenger or WhatsApp ads where people respond to your ad by typing a message and going back and forth with you on these chat apps. It can be quiz funnels where people have to fill out a survey, etc., etc. So a lot of people don't realize that you can use Meta Instant Forms in order to get bookings. FYI, this is a big tip and a hint on some of the funnels that I see working or mechanisms that I see working well with my clients these days. So in this case, again, pick the ones that's most likely to succeed. Again, to put this into practice, pick the one that you see the most commonly out there to use as an A test in your A/B test, and then pick another one based on your judgment about what that B test will be. Sometimes you can be surprised by the lead volume and quality using two different methods. Also, a good ads manager will have judgment and experience to know which setup is best for your particular industry. So keep that in mind, that they're going to bring expertise that comes from their field to play here as well. For example, Instagram messaging ads might work really well for some countries, but WhatsApp messaging might be the only way people will do business in places like Singapore or Kenya or something like this. Last up, we have follow-up, which is not necessarily an ads thing, but it is absolutely essential in order to make the ads work. If you can't do any follow-up, you might as well not even bother to do the ads. It's that important. So we all know the classic information that you need to get back to the leads quickly, but some quick research on Perplexity shows that you basically lose 80% of your responsiveness in the first 1 hour, basically, of how long it takes to respond to a lead. So after 24 hours, a lot of the lead value is lost. So definitely have to jump up on those leads quickly. So how do you do that? So there are typical follow-up channels or methods. Email automations is the most basic one that you need to have in place. SMS would probably be the next most basic one to have in place. And then you have phone calls and video messages to add on top. But definitely at least have the email automations in place at the very minimum. There's some email blindness now compared to 5-10 years ago. So you're going to need to adapt to the time to try and use SMS as much as possible. So putting this into practice, this is again essential to do in 2026. Make sure you have as many of these as possible, obviously within the legal limits of where you are and your restrictions around that. And also, our top tip is to adapt your pipeline stages for easy prioritization. So there can be cases where you have such a high lead volume that your appointment setting team doesn't know who to follow up with. So in that case, you can adapt your pipeline to make it easy for them to prioritize who to call first. And on top of that, make sure that your callback rate is part of the company's KPIs. Cool. So once you've thought through these 7 factors, you will actually have a strategy that can be used internally to guide and track whether your Facebook ads is working as a channel. So first, formalize all of these 7 things, write them down, and then test your campaign theory, which is the overall idea of the setup on all these 7 things at a time. A/B test certain portions along the way, such as, which target segment, which mechanism, which angle, which offer, that type of thing as you go, to make sure that you aren't accidentally leaving money on the table, or you aren't accidentally shooting yourself in the foot by promoting something that isn't very competitive in the market. Don't forget, Facebook, Instagram ads is player versus player. So your competitors are out there trying to beat your ads by being more creative, being sharper in their funnels, being better on their ad copy, etc. So you can't sort of just put anything in play and then hope that it works. You actually need to compete in the market against your competition. And then obviously at some point you can repeat this process again to come up with new ideas to refine your plan. But naturally you will refine this plan as you go. Cool, so those are the 7 things to implement. Please have a go trying to put this into place. If you get stuck or want more help and want someone to actually make it for you and help you run that, grab a time on my calendar below. I'll leave it in the caption, or just leave a comment with a question on the video, and I'll see you next time.